Okay. Okay. Hey guys. Hey. Hi. Just want to say hi.
I can't say too much as yet, but I'm going to be spending a lot more time in here with you lot because I love it in here. I fucking love it!
Someone told me this when I was speaking. Like, how did America lose the ability to do this sort of thing, like etch and hydrofluoric acid, all of that? I told them, like, he told me basically was like, it's very apprentice, master apprentice. Like, you know, in Star Wars, Sith, there's only one, right? Master apprentice, master apprentice.
Always two there are. No more, no less. A master and an apprentice.
It used to be that there is a master, there's an apprentice, and they pass on this secret knowledge. This guy knows nothing but etch, nothing but etch. Over time, the apprentices stopped coming. And then in the end, the apprentices moved to Taiwan. And that's the same way it's still run. Like you have the NTU and NTHU, Tsinghua University, National Tsinghua University. There's a bunch of masters. They teach apprentices and they just pass this sacred knowledge down.
Even if America as a whole is getting millions of GPUs a year, the fact that any one company is only getting hundreds of thousands or less means that there's no one person who can do a trading run as big in America as if like China as a whole decides to do one together. The 10 gigawatts you mentioned near the Three Gorges Dam, is it like literally like How widespread is it? Like a state? Is it like one wire? Like how?
I think like between not just the dam itself, but like also all of the coal. There's some nuclear reactors there, I believe, as well. Between all of and like renewables like solar and wind. Between all of that in that region, there is an absurd amount of concentrated power that could be built. I don't think it's like, I'm not saying it's like one button, but it's like, hey, within X mile radius, right? Yeah. Is more of like the correct way to frame it. And that's how the labs are also framing it, right? Like, I think if they started, in the U.S. Yeah.
If they started right now, like how long does it take to build the biggest AI data center that in the world?
You know, actually, I think the other thing is like, could we notice it? I don't think so, because the amount of like factories that are being spun up, the amount of other construction, manufacturing, et cetera, that's being built, a gigawatt is actually like a drop in the bucket, right? Like a gigawatt is not a lot of power. 10 gigawatts is not an absurd amount of power, right? It's okay, yes, it's like hundreds of thousands of homes, right? Well, yeah, millions of people, but it's like, you got 1.4 billion people, you got like most of the world's like extremely energy intensive like refining and like, you know, rare earth refining and all these manufacturing industries are here. It would be very easy to hide it.
Really?
Right? It'd be very easy to just like shut down, like, I think the largest aluminum mill in the world is there, and it's like north of 5 gigawatts alone. It's like, oh, what could we tell if they stopped making aluminum there and instead started like making, you know, AIs there or making AI there? Like, I don't know. Right, if your goal is to restrict China from building chips and you just like boil it down to like, hey, lithography is 30% of making a chip, so or 25%. Cool, let's sanction lithography. Okay, where do we draw the line? Okay, let me figure out where the line is. And if I'm a bureaucrat, if I'm a lawyer at the Commerce Department or what have you, well, obviously I'm going to go talk to ASML, and ASML is going to tell me this is the line, because they know like, hey, well, you know, this is, you know, there's like some blending over.
There's like they're like looking at like what's going to cost us the most money, right?
And then they constantly say like, if you restrict us, then China will have their own industry, right? And the way I like to look at it is like, chip manufacturing is like 3D chess or like, you know, a massive jigsaw puzzle. And
I want to play a game.
Jigsaw puzzle, and that if you take away one piece, China can be like, oh yeah, that's the piece, let's put it in, right? And currently, this export restrictions, year by year, they keep updating them ever since like 2018 or so, 19, right? When Trump started, and now Biden's, you know, accelerated them. They've been like, they haven't just like take a bat to the table and like break it, right? Like it's like, let's take one jigsaw puzzle out, walk away. Oh shit, let's take two more out. Oh shit, right? Like, you know, it's like instead if they like, you either have to go kind of like full bat to the freaking like table / wall or chill out, right? Like, and like, you know, let them do whatever they want. Because the alternative is everything is focused on this thing and they make that. And then now when you take out another two pieces, like, well, I have my domestic industry for this. I can also now make a domestic industry for these. Like you go deeper into the tech tree or what have you.
It's it's art, right? In the sense that there are technologies out there that can compensate. Like if you believe the belief that lithography is a linchpin within the system it's not
With
exactly
American
true.
firms or any other firm, you can have a company that's very good, but over time it gets worse, right? Like Intel or many others. I guess Huawei just isn't that old of a company, but it's hard to like be a big company and like stay good.
That is true. I think a word that I hear a lot with regards to Huawei is a struggle, right? And China has a culture of like the Communist Party is like really big on struggle. I think like Huawei, in the sense, they sort of brought that culture into the way they do it. Like you said before, right? They go crazy because they think that in 5 years that they're going to fight the United States, and so like literally everything they do every second is like their country depends on it, right?
It's the Andy Grovian mindset, right? Like shout out to like the based intel, but like only the paranoid survive, right? Like paranoid Western companies do well. Why did Google like really screw the pooch on a lot of stuff, and then why are they like resurging kind of now? Is because they got paranoid as hell, right? But they weren't paranoid for a while. If Huawei is just constantly paranoid about like the external world and like, oh fuck, we're gonna die, oh fuck, like they're gonna beat us, our country depends on it, we're gonna get the best people from the entire country that are like the best at whatever they do,
and tell them if you do not succeed, you will die, or
not,
like our
not
country,
you will die, but
your family will die, your family will be enslaved and everything. Like it'll be terrible.
by the evil Western pigs, right?
Even
Exactly.
Western, like capitalist or not capitalist. They don't believe in. They don't say that anymore. But it's something like everyone is against China. China is being defiled, right? And like they're saying like that is all on you, bro. Like if you can't do that, then like you
if you can't get that fucking radio to be slightly
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
they're gonna bring in a guy to work on Saturday until 4.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah. So you have like TSMC always builds new fabs. That old fab, they like tweak production up a little bit more and more, and new designs move to the next node, and old stuff fills in the old nodes, right? So ever since TSMC has been the most important player. And not just TSMC, there's UMC there, there's PSMC there, there's a number of other companies there. Taiwan's share of like total manufacturing has grown every single process node. So in like 130 nanometer, there's a lot, and including like many chips from like Texas Instruments or Analog Devices or like NXP, like all these companies, 100% of it is manufactured in Taiwan, right? By, either TSMC or UMC or whatever. But then you like step forward and forward and forward, right? Like 28 nanometer, like 80% of the world's production of 28 nanometer is in Taiwan. Oh, fuck, right? Like, and everything in 28 nanometers, like what's made on 28 nanometer today? Tons of microcontrollers and stuff, but also like every display driver I see, like, cool. Like even if I could make my Mac chip, I can't make the chip that drives the display. Like, you just go down the list, like everything, no fridges, no automobiles, no weed whackers, because that shit my toothbrush has fucking Bluetooth in it, right? Like why? I don't know. But like, there's like so many things that like, just like poof, we're tech reset.
We were supposed to do this interview like many months ago, and then I like kept like delaying because I'm like, I don't understand any of the shit. But like, it is like a very difficult thing to understand. Where I feel like with AI, it's like, it's not that. Like,
no, you've just spent time. You've spent
sure,
the time.
But like, I also feel like it's like less complex. It feels like it's a kind of thing where like in an amateur kind of way, you can like pick up what's going on in the field.
Yes,
in this field, like the thing I'm curious about is like how does one learn the layers of the stack? Because the layers of the stack are like, there's not just the papers online. You can't just like look up the tutorial on how the transformer works or whatever. It's like,
yes,
it's like,
I mean, like
many layers of really difficult shit.
There are like 18-year-olds who are just cracked at like pure transformer attention, right? Or like, hey, demod, like how wide versus tall the model is, right? That's like very important, like demod versus number of layers, right? These are all like things that like would be different, like, and I know they're different between like say a Google and an OpenAI and what is optimal. Yeah. But what really starts to get like, hey, if you were limited on a number of different things, like China invests humongously in compute and memory. Which is like basically the memory cell is directly coupled, or is the compute cell, right? So these are like things that like China's investing hugely, and you go to conferences like, oh, there's 20 papers from Chinese companies / universities about compute and memory. Or like, hey, like because the flop limitation is here, maybe NVIDIA pumps up the on-chip memory and like changes the architecture, because they still stand to benefit tens of billions of dollars by selling chips to China, right? Today it's just like neutered American chips, right? Neutered chips that go to the US, but like it'll start to diverge more and more architecturally because they'd be stupid not to make chips for China, right? And Huawei obviously, again, like has like their constraints, right? Like where are they limited on memory? Oh, they have a lot of networking capabilities, and they could move to like certain optical like networking technologies directly onto the chip much sooner than we could, right? Because that is what's optimal for them within their search space of solutions, right? Because this whole area is like blocked off.
It's kind of really interesting to think about like the development of how Chinese AI models will differ from American AI models because of these changes or these
And it
constraints.
applies to use cases. It applies to data running 100K GPUs, right?
I know.
And that cost about 5 billion, right? 4 billion, right? Not 1 billion. So the scale that SSI has is much smaller, by the way, right? So their size of cluster will be, maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of the size, right? So now you're talking.
What is this?
A center for ants. Talking about 25 to 32K cluster, right? There, you still don't have that, right? No one is willing to rent you a 32K cluster today, no matter how much money you have, right? Even if you had more than $1 billion. So it makes the most sense to build your own cluster, one, instead of renting it, or get a very close relationship like a OpenAI Microsoft with CoreWeave, or OpenAI Microsoft with Oracle/Crusoe. The next step is Bitcoin, right? So OpenAI has a data center in Texas, right? Or it's going to be their data center. It's like they kind of contracted and all that. CoreWeave, there is a 300 megawatt natural gas plant on site powering these crypto mining data centers from the company called Core Scientific. And so they're just converting that. There's a lot of conversion, but like the power's already there, the power infrastructure's already there. So it's really about like converting it, getting it ready to be water cooled, all that sort of stuff, and convert it to a 100,000 GB200 cluster. And they have a number of those going up across the country. But that's also like tapped out to some extent because NVIDIA is doing the same thing in Plano, Texas for a 32,000 GPU cluster that they're building.
Is NVIDIA is doing that?
Well, they're going through partners, right? Because this is the other interesting thing is the big tech companies can't do crazy shit like Elon did.
Why?
ESG. The UAE data center company, cloud company. Their CEO is a Chinese national, or not a Chinese, he's Chinese, basically Chinese allegiance, but I think OpenAI wanted to use a data center from them, but instead, like, the US forced Microsoft to, like, I feel like this is what happened, is forced Microsoft to, like, do a deal with them so that G42 has a 100K GPU cluster, but Microsoft is like administering and operating for security reasons, right? And there's like Omniva in like Kuwait, like the Kuwait like super rich guy spending like $5+ billion on data centers, right? Like you just go down the list, like all these countries. Malaysia has, $10+ billion of like data center, AI data center build outs over the next couple of years, right? Like, and go to every country, it's like this stuff is happening. But on the grand scheme of things, the vast majority of the compute is being built in the US, and then China, and then like Malaysia, Middle East, and like rest of the world. And if you're in the, going back to your point, right? Like you have synthetic data, you have like the search stuff, you have like you have all these post-training techniques, you have all this, all this ways to soak up flops, or you just figure out how to train across multiple data centers, which I think they have. At least Microsoft and OpenAI have figured.
What makes you think they figured it out?
Their actions. So Microsoft has signed deals north of $10 billion with fiber companies to connect their data centers together. There are some permits already filed to show people are digging, between certain data centers. So we think with fairly high accuracy, we can say we think that there's 5 data centers, massive, not just 5 data centers, sorry, 5 like regions that they're connecting together, which
deep
comprises
technical analysis. You'll subscribe to Semi-Analysis for.
I think this is just me riffing. Can you imagine what happens to the stock if Satya starts talking about Pascal's wager?
No, but this is psychologically what's happening, right? This is if I don't, and Satya said it on his earnings call, the risk of underinvesting is worse than the risk of overinvesting. He said this word for word. This is Pascal's wager. This is, I must believe I am AGI pilled, because if I'm not and my competitor does it, I'm absolutely fucked.
Oh, okay, other than Zuck, who seems pretty convinced.
Sundar said this on the earnings call. So Zuck said it, Sundar said it. Satya's actions on credit risk for Microsoft do it. He's very good at PR and like messaging, so he hasn't like said it so openly, right? Sam believes it. Dario believes it. You look across these tech titans, they believe it. And then you look at the capital holders. The UAE believes it. I think the context here is that Moore's Law was predicted in 1965. Intel was founded in 68 and released their first memory chips in 69 and 70. And so Moore's law was, a lot of it was about memory. And the memory industry followed Moore's law up until 2012, where it stopped, right? And it became very incremental gains since then, whereas logic has continued and like people are like, oh, it's dying, it's slowing down. At least there's still a little bit of like, coming, right? Still more than 10%, 15% a year CAGR, right? Of growth and density / cost improvement. Memory is like literally like been like since 2012, like really bad. And when you think about the cost of memory, it's been considered a commodity, but memory integration with accelerators, like this is like something that I don't know if you can be an entrepreneur here, though. That's the real challenge, is because you have to manufacture at some really absurdly large scale or design something which in an industry that does not allow you to make custom memory devices.
Or use materials that don't work that way.
So there's a lot of like work there that I don't necessarily agree with you, but I do agree it's like one of the most important things for people to invest in.